The primary preoccupation now is Iran's nuclear program, although there are many other issues between the United States and Iran which I believe have to be worked out. A group of us did an article in March in which we said that there were three important things that probably needed to be done with respect to Iran's nuclear question. One is for the United States to open direct talks, a little bit like we have them with North Korea, maybe in an international framework. The second is that we should propose that there be multinational enrichment of uranium inside Iran, but with full transparency. And the third part of that, linked to the second part, is that there ought to be a very strong international inspection mechanism, much like the inspection mechanism perhaps that was incorporated and used by the United Nations to deal with Iraq. There are a lot of us who believe that multinational enrichment with very strong inspection is even better than a unilateral declaration by Iran that it won't enrich, but very weak inspection. And you can see the reasons why, that there's a lot of distrust in the region. There's a lot of distrust about Iran. And we would want to be certain that Iran was not taking steps to try to circumvent either its own decision or indeed an agreement it reached internationally about enrichment. Our proposal has a strong firewall between a civil nuclear power program and a nuclear weapons program, and that firewall is full transparency, international sharing of ownership and control, and an opportunity for an international inspection system to assure very broadly that neither in the enrichment facility nor elsewhere is Iran violating its obligations under such an agreement not to move in the direction of nuclear weapons. Certainly, there's been a lot of suspicion of Iran. I join in being concerned about Iran's nuclear program. I don't dismiss that at all as serious. But I think asking for a price to open talks is not a feasible way to get the conversation going. And it was not the posture of the United States when it opened talks with North Korea. It took a while to get there. It was done within a six-party context, a multinational context, but bilateral conversations took place, and so far they appear to have been helpful rather than harmful in moving the process ahead. My own feeling is that with Iran, we should start talks without preconditions. We could make an early item on the agenda the question of enrichment and see if we could solve that early. But the talks themselves would deal with other questions, too. Iran's problems with the United States, which has serious problems with Iran, things like opposition to the peace process in the Middle East, their supportive groups that sponsor and carry out terrorism, issues of that sort. And hopefully the talks themselves could be not only a vehicle for dealing with the question of Iran's nuclear program, but maybe more broadly some of the other issues that are there between us that could be resolved with the objective, obviously, over the long run of trying to find a way to establish mutual diplomatic relations and even exchange of ambassadors at some point if we can move ahead and begin to resolve these problems. We did the same thing many years ago with China. It was a fruitful enterprise. It took some time. It was not easy, but it produced results, and it's much better than not talking. I visited Iran as a tourist in 2004, and I found, despite all of the difficulties between the United States and Iran, that at least people on the streets who came up and wanted to talk were very, very interested in the United States. They were not antagonistic about the United States. They wanted to have closer relations with the United States. Some of them didn't understand why the relations were so strained. It's important to recognize that talks in themselves are not a magic answer. Just starting talks is not the answer. You have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy. You have to have objectives. I think we have all of those things. I think they can all be put in place. And you have to have some reciprocity in that. You have to be able to help the Iranians solve their problems with the U.S. as we want them to help solve our problems with Iran.